Welcome to the Holistify podcast, where we have casual conversations on the areas of health, wellness, motherhood, and everything in between. I'm your host, Shaira Dossey, certified integrative health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fellow mom who's passionate about all things holistic, healthy living, but within balance, and taking the overwhelm out of the information overload coming from the internet and simplifying health and wellness by going back to the basics. So be sure to grab your water bottle or your mug of your favorite hot drink, kick back, enjoy this episode, and let's walk a holistified life together. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's get started. Alrighty, folks. Welcome to my very first episode of the Holistified podcast. This is actually the second episode I've recorded, but it will still be my first episode that I've released. The very next episode after this is actually the first episode I recorded. But this first episode is just kind of a very quick intro to me. If you don't know me, a little bit about my brand, why I built my business, Holistify Wellness. It's a virtual or hybrid, if you're local, health and nutrition coaching company. I work with clients all around the U.S., especially moms, young moms, moms who are currently pregnant, postpartum moms, and even women who are wanting to have children in the future, or very near future, who might not have children yet. But it's really catered to women and moms in the early stages of motherhood and helping them navigate health and wellness online and making the best healthy decisions for themselves. Because I was in their steps and I was trying to figure out what was good information coming from Instagram and what my friends were telling me and what was traditional and what Google was saying and what my OB was saying when I was pregnant with my first, that it was really overwhelming and I didn't know what was right and I didn't know what was wrong because a lot of information was contradictory. And I wanted to be, that whole natural trend that's kind of going on right now. I think the mainstream term for it is crunchy, which is a way of living that is more non-traditional. So how a crunchy mom would do things is, instead of eating conventional processed food, she might choose for a more natural or more whole foods diet. Instead, things from her garden, only meat, eggs, dairy, maybe gluten if she tolerates gluten, stuff like that, and really limiting or minimizing or sometimes completely omitting processed or packaged food, and maybe hardly ever going out for fast foods. And there's that kind of crunchy spectrum. So it's kind of a spectrum. There's crunchy, and then I think the opposite of crunchy is silky, and that's the mom who maybe isn't truly worried about processed foods and additives and ingredients. She just wants to make sure her children are fueled. And I think there's a good balance between both of them. Both are important, both matter, and I think people should live within that balance. But I also think that you need to choose however far on the scale you want to live at, and whatever is doable for you without feeling pressured to go one way or another. That's kind of where I stand on that topic. I never want moms to feel like they need to be totally crunchy, and if they don't feed their kids good food, they're increasing their risk for cancer. And that's kind of how my story started, was with my son's cancer journey. So before I became a mom and business owner, or before I became a stay-at-home, work-from-home mom and business owner, I actually worked, I guess it's like a 9-to-5 job. I worked for the state, and I was a wildland fire dispatcher, in which I talked on the radio to firefighters, wildland firefighters, and engines and aircraft, and helped delegate, and was basically the center communications hub, I guess, for people out on the ground fighting fire, to their higher ups, to people that provided resources for them so that they could do their job. And I loved my job. It was high paced and stressful when it was fire season and it was busy, and I really thrived on that because it required me to be organized and on the ball and attention to detail, and how fast can I do things accurately, and not perfectly, but kind of perfectly, because I'm kind of a very, introverted type A, perfectionist, OCD person. But I really thrive on having a goal in front of me and accomplishing it, and especially if that goal if other people are relying on me to accomplish that goal. And when I succeed in my mission and it benefits everyone, that makes me feel good. I enjoy helping people and knowing that my role and position is important and that I'm making a difference. So that's why I really love that job. Then I was pregnant with my first child. I was kind of influenced to be a crunchy mom because I had a friend who was a crunchy mom, and she she gave me like resources and books to read and videos to watch. I never watched any videos though because I didn't like watching videos, especially long documentary form like videos. But I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do with like my pregnancy and my child. And she kind of gave me resources to support my journey, and also strongly educated or informed me to make crunchy decisions when I was kind of on the fence on things. I don't know if that makes sense. She wasn't like necessarily pushing her beliefs on me. She understood like what I wanted, and she was also like if I wanted something different than what she was wanting, she never like pressured me to follow her, which was great. But like a lot of things I knew that I was going to do was like, maybe I don't want to vaccinate. Maybe I will. I don't know. I know that's a very controversial topic right now, which is not what we're going to talk about today. No worries. And then I wanted to like eat clean and good foods. And I've always been kind of like interested in nutrition and health and wellness. At one point I was trying to do a paleo diet. Did not go well, especially because I love baking, and part of paleo is cutting out grains and gluten. But I enjoy baking, and gluten-free baking is just not as fun as gluten baking. So I'm a baker, and cutting out grains was just not a thing for me. So I was like pretend paleo. So like I still like ate vegetables and meat and eggs. I like the idea of paleo. I was never actually 100% paleo. I never understood diets and macronutrients and micronutrients and calories and how that all worked until a lot more educating and going through certifications and nutrition schools. So, but in my pregnancy, I tried my best to eat healthy. I don't know, probably did not do well at all. There's so much more information that I have in my head now that I would do differently if I were to have another kid. I currently have 2 kids now. My oldest is 3, my youngest is 18 months. I feel like we're kind of done. We're 2 right now. I don't really want to go more than 2. But if I were to have a third, my plan, like I already have a good nutrition and activity and lifestyle plan of how I would do things so much differently. When I was pregnant with my first, I didn't understand the importance of protein in pregnancy, and I just ate a ton of carbs because that's what I was wanting and that's what I was craving, and I didn't really factor in the calorie intake and nutrients and stuff like that. I tried to pick high quality vitamins because I thought supplements were really the solution to a lot of things. I attempted to exercise. I was never really much of an exercise person. I thought going to the gym meant running on the treadmill until you were sweaty and your heart was beating and you could barely breathe. I always thought that weights were something for the guys, and that like I was never going to touch a dumbbell or a barbell or lift anything heavy. I thought that getting toned and strong was like body weight workouts and cardio. Like that's what I thought it was. I never really looked into or had any desire to do strength training, and didn't really care to know about the benefits of it either. Fast forward to today, it's a completely different story. So in 2020, I gave birth to my son, my oldest, and his name is Kai, and Kai in Japanese means regrowth or restoration. And I really like that name because I was going through kind of a really difficult time in my pregnancy, mentally and emotionally. I was kind of super anxious. I had anxiety and depression even before I was pregnant, and then with all the hormones during pregnancy, and my pregnancy was in COVID when COVID started, and at the very first year of COVID. And it was super stressful for me too. I didn't really have family support other than my husband. I was in a new town and I didn't really know people. I didn't know how to take care of my body for one, and was pretty much trying to navigate everything on my own myself. I had a friend that I would talk to on the phone here and there. Didn't really talk to my mom at the time. Wasn't talking to my dad at the time. Hardly ever was able talking to my siblings. So I just felt really alone. And then I had in-laws, though, that I would talk to occasionally. And I grew up in a Christian home, kind of in the Christian community. During the time of COVID, it was super popular to talk about the world ending, and this is all a sign, and mark of the beast, and the world is going to take a turn for the worse, and people are going to be awful, and there's going to be riots, and there's going to be maybe the power grid's going to shut down, and we're going to live back in the caveman days, and people are going to be killing each other to survive. Oh, by the way, congratulations on being pregnant and bringing new life into this world. Also, Jesus is coming back within a few months, probably, so you're either not going to be... They didn't say this, but in my head, this is what they were telling me. This is what I heard in my head, was that, oh, the world's going to end. You're bringing new life. You're probably not going to be a mom for long. You might die. Your kid might die. Or you're going to be a mom for like a couple months, and then Jesus is coming and we're all going home and you're not going to get to enjoy it, which felt very unfair to me. And yeah, I just did not enjoy it. I did not have a great pregnancy at all. It was not fun. And I was not one of those women who loved being pregnant, who was like always taking bump pictures and loved rubbing my belly and stuff like that. I was not that woman at all. I was not that mom at all. And my friend always loved to see, whenever she would video call me, she was like, I want to see your bump. And I was just like, no, I don't want to show it to anybody. I tried to hide it for a long time, like as my bump got bigger, and I was very like trying to hide it. I was like not a proud, happy pregnant woman. That was what my pregnancy was like. I don't really have anything else to that, but like I was not one of those women. After I was going with my story, my son was born, and I was so happy he was born, and I was like, this is going to be a new chapter for me. I'm going to stop being anxious and depressed. I'm going to figure out a way to take care of myself and my body and get out from this cloud of depression that's wrecking me. I want to be happy again. I want to be content again. I want to stop feeling depressed, and I want to be the best mom I can for my son, and I'm going to enjoy every moment I have with him. First 6 weeks were amazing as it could be for a new mom, I guess. You know, right after you have birth, your vagina's sore, and breastfeeding is awful and nobody really tells you or prepares you for the pain of breastfeeding and the pain of your milk coming in. So I was trying to navigate all of that. At some point during those first 4 to 6 weeks home, I noticed my son had like a hernia in his abdomen or lower abdomen that would like, pop out a little bit when he was trying to push, and I could like push it back in. That's what I learned what a hernia was. And so when I took the 6-week checkup and showed him to our pediatrician, he told me what a hernia was and said that he might have to have surgery to fix it. I was like, okay, well, that at first sounded scary, that like, oh no, my baby's going to have surgery for a hernia, even though it's not harmless, or, I mean, it's not that, it's not like super dangerous. So I guess it's like a normal procedure and it happens, and it's like, it's common, not like common, but like, it'll be okay. It wasn't as life-threatening as I thought it was going to be. Anyways, so I think it was maybe a couple days later or a week later when I had his scheduled appointment with the surgeon, the pediatric surgeon who was going to do the surgery, was examining him on the table before his surgery. And the pediatric surgeon was like pushing on my son's belly, on his stomach, and he was like, something's not quite right. I don't know. And my kid was chunky. Both of my babies were chunky. But yeah, Kai was very chunky and had a big belly. And I was just like, yeah, he's a good eater. He's a chunky baby. He just has a big belly, like big bellied babies. Like, isn't that normal? But the pediatric surgeon was like, I don't know, something's not quite right. So he ordered an ultrasound, and we took the ultrasound. It was just like down across the street. Measured the ultrasound pictures. I didn't really know what was going on or why we were doing it. And I remember hanging out for, I don't know, like 30 minutes after the ultrasound happened, and nobody's really telling me if I had to stay or if I had to go home. So I just kind of like buckled up. him up back in his car seat and started driving home. And it was in the evening. It was probably like 6 p.m. when I was headed back to my home, which was like 2 hours away from the hospital. And I had driven there by myself because my husband was working. Anyways, maybe like 10 minutes out of the city, I got a call. I pulled over on the side of the road and answered my phone. And I don't remember the entire conversation, but I do remember hearing, your son has cancer. We want you guys back tomorrow morning to do a biopsy, just test it, and et cetera, et cetera. He was explaining a little bit about the cancer, what it was, what he thought it was, et cetera. I don't really remember anything else other than like, your son has cancer. And that was it. And I remember like coming home, like calling my husband, calling him crying, and then calling when I got home, calling my mom and crying and telling her about it, and calling my friend and her and telling her about it. And just remember thinking like, this is so unfair. I don't get to be a mom because my kid has cancer. And like, God, what are you doing? What is this for? Why does my kid have this? Why is this happening? If I get emotional, because this is an emotional time for me. Anyways, so the next day, tried to get some sleep. Next day, my husband and I drove 2 hours back to the city. My son got his biopsy, and the oncology doctor that was working the case, he was actually from out of town. He wasn't even a local doctor. He just happened to be working, I guess. I don't really know what the situation was. He just happened to be in the hospital and was available to look at my son's ultrasounds and determine what kind of cancer it was, etc. And it was this super, super rare, even more rare than leukemia, neuroblastoma cancer, which affects the adrenals. So what they found was that my son's left kidney, had like a 3-centimeter tumor on it, and his liver was like speckled with tumors, and it was causing it to be 3 times the size his liver should be. And it was like compressing his lungs because he had to go under anesthesia to have the biopsy. Okay. But his liver was like compressing his lungs and making it difficult for him to breathe and get oxygen when he was waking up from anesthesia, which is why they wanted to start chemo right away. And because his liver was so big, it was probably also why his hernia was protruding like even more, and why he probably even had a hernia. So really, when I think about this entire situation and all the variables and factors at play, it was definitely God at work behind the scenes. Being that doctor, that specific doctor, was in town for that time to be able to look at my son's diagnosis and determine what it was, and come in and talk to me. I don't remember his name. I haven't seen him since. I haven't talked to him, but like, so grateful that he was there to help me out, to help us out. And yeah. And the hernia was definitely like, if I never had the hernia, I would have never known that my kid had cancer. And it probably would have just progressed worse, and he probably would have been like unable to eat. And then, and end of story. So the hernia was definitely a God thing too. And so like that evening, my husband and I thought we were just going to go home, have his checkup, and then, or go to the hospital, have my son's checkup, test and whatnot, and then go home that evening. Like, we didn't have plans. That's what we thought. We thought we were going to come back home that night. But because my son was struggling to get out of, to get oxygen coming out from anesthesia, they told us that they wanted to start chemo right away. So they were going to fly him to Seattle Children's that night. And I could go with him. And my husband was going to stay. Well, could not come because it was COVID. Remember, this is all during COVID. So like, doctor visits you had to do by yourself. You couldn't really have your husband with you or anything like that. So they were like, we have to see if they'll let, right now only one parent can come with him. We'll see if the hospital will let the other parent come. So it was just me and my son. So that evening they scheduled a helicopter ride. Was it No, sorry. We rode in an ambulance to the airport. I don't know if it was the main airport or another airport, but it had a little airplane, and my son was in a clear, I don't know what it's called, container thing that he would lay down, and they kind of like had him strapped down, kind of like a seatbelt, and it was like keeping him warm. But that's what he was gonna fly in to Seattle, and all I had was whatever mom outfit I had on, and a diaper bag, and little boots because I was trying to dress nice. And that's all I had, and I was in the plane with them, and we flew to Seattle. Super scary, super stressed out. I didn't know what was happening, what was going to happen, what was going on. Said goodbye to my husband. My husband drove home alone. Let's take a little deep breath here so that I don't get emotional. Okay. We landed in Seattle. My phone didn't have my charger with me, so my phone was dead. I had enough power to like send a text to my husband and say that we made it. I'll call you when I can because my phone was dying. So yeah, and I didn't have a charger. Landed in Seattle. They took my son to get his surgery to get his port in his chest. And I just remember walking around Seattle Children's Hospital all alone, trying to figure out what to do and how to do things. And, still a mom, 7 weeks postpartum, still dealing with all my physical body stuff that's also going on. And yeah, let's see. Maybe an hour or so later, he came out of surgery, and he had a port in his chest, which was a little weird to see. Like a tube coming out of his chest. He had like another, and they told me that where it goes is like under his rib cage and into his artery here, and then right above his heart. But that's where they told me that the tube led to. And then they were like, and you were gonna learn how to clean this port and make sure that it doesn't get infected, etc., etc. And in my mind, I was like, what? I'm cleaning this? You want me to be in charge of this? No, I don't think I can do it. That's really overwhelming. And that sounds scary, that knowing that this tube goes all the way down his neck and right above his heart. Like, what? If I do something wrong, that's my fault. I was like, no, I don't. I would really, I was going to learn it. I did learn how to clean the port and manage it and stuff, but first that just sounds scary. Yeah, that very next morning, tried to get some rest with me and him in our little hospital room. Tried to get some rest. Tried to, still navigating breastfeeding, etc., etc. They were super nice and accommodating. Seattle Children's was wonderful. Let me take a deep breath here so that it doesn't sound like my voice is like so tight all the time. All right. Again, despite it being COVID, and the only reason I hated that time was because of COVID. If COVID wasn't there, like COVID made it worse. COVID made the whole thing worse. Well, there's a lot of emotions coming up. All right. Next morning, first day in Seattle, Danielle Kirky, I hope it's okay to say her name, but she was the pediatric oncology doctor that was in charge of Kai's care. Super wonderful mom, or lady, who's also a mom. And she really sympathized. This is really hard to get through. Whew. So she really sympathized with me and what was going on. We're gonna stop for a second so I can stop crying. See, I knew I should have got the waterproof mascara. Anyways, I've talked about my story before to other people. I didn't cry or break down or anything, so maybe... Oh, I know why this is hard for me right now. My period's next week, so that's why. This is why. All right. Yes. So, pediatric oncology doctor, Danielle Kirky, wonderful lady, came in, sympathized with me with what is going on as a new mom and trying to navigate things, and now my baby has cancer. She was trying to explain their treatment plan, and she was telling me all these names of the chemo medicines and other medications he was going to have to take on the side to help with the side effects of chemo medicines that he was going to have. And they were all these long names and words. And I was trying, like, my brain was just like, I cannot take any more information right now. And like during the middle of it, I just started like, during the middle of her like telling me everything, I just broke down and started crying. I was like, this is just really hard to take in and figure out what's going on and make sense of everything. You're telling me all this stuff and it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand the medicines. I don't understand the medications. I don't understand anything that you're telling me. I don't have my husband with me. My son has this thing in his chest. My boobs hurt. My hair is greasy. I haven't showered. And my feet hurt from walking around the hospital floors in boots. It was just so much. And I was miserable. Oh, gosh. All right. I don't remember much other than there was some like programs and assistance that they had for families to help them out with rent. I did learn that my husband could join me the next few days. So he got someone to take care of our pets and got the house somewhat cleaned up or like set up to leave home alone for however long. We didn't know how long we were going to be in Seattle. Yeah. And we got a Ronald McDonald room reserved, the Ronald McDonald house. Turns out being at the Ronald McDonald house is just it's like a hotel, pretty much, with a communal center. But they're like hotel rooms, but next to the hospital. But for families to stay in. But remember, we're in the height of COVID, so they don't want people socializing or mingling in the main halls. Like, they just wanted you to... They have food in the kitchen downstairs that we could go in, which my husband and I kind of liked because we could, like, wake up in the morning, go downstairs, and there was breakfast trays. We just grabbed one. It was already there. And we just went back upstairs. And they had dinners, too. So we just go down at dinner time, grab a dinner, and go back upstairs. And that was it. It was so easy. Like, we just go downstairs because food magically appeared. And we would take it and go back to our rooms and eat. So we didn't cook dinner for, like, the longest time. I would attempt to cook healthy dinners because, remember, I was trying to be healthy. But I was like, what's the point? There's just free meals every night and every morning. We just go downstairs. It's magically there. We're back to our rooms. It's the introvert's dream, really. But when you've done that long enough and you need some socializing, like, it's really tiring. Anyways, you weren't allowed to hang out in the common area, communal room or whatever for very long. They wanted you to go back upstairs. So chemo and everything went well. We were in Seattle for 4 months and then we were able to come back home. But during that time, now this is where the start of my business was born. All right. During this time, I knew that I was not going to go back to work. My wildland fire dispatch job was seasonal, so in the winter time, I wasn't working. I would live off of unemployment or work some part-time job. But I knew next when summer came around, I was like, I don't want to go back to work. I want to stay home with my son and enjoy all the time with him ever. And yeah, so that was the plan. And so I started looking at work from home jobs because I wanted to help make an income. I was so used to bringing in an income that I wanted to help. I wanted to be helpful. And yeah, so I started working at work from home jobs. I came across health coaching and I was just like, yeah, I have an interest in health and wellness. They said you could make a business from it. They said you can work from home, your own hours, helping other people make healthy decisions or implement healthy habits. That's kind of what I got the gist of it. Didn't really understand, had no idea what a health coach was. They said that there was a need for health coaches in the upcoming years. And I was like, yeah, there's going to be lots of need for it. Sounds like a solid thing. I like health and nutrition. Somehow I convinced my husband to let me dig into our savings so I could pay to go to the school. There are a couple of schools that I was looking into. One was Institute for Integrative Nutrition, or IAN, and they are the biggest, most, I want to say most recognized health coach school. Yeah, I know they're definitely the biggest one, but IAN, and I liked how flexible it seemed and stuff like that. That was one of the and that was the one I ended up going with. And then the second school that I was looking at was, I think it was Precision Nutrition. And because I was crunchy, clean, holistic, natural mama, the IAN ones just seemed more appealing to me. So that's the route that I went. Precision Nutrition seemed more textbook, sciencey, facts and data. I don't know how you would describe that. Traditional, I guess. And I think if I had to do things over again, I would probably go with Precision Nutrition. But I'm also still very glad I went to IAN. I think, I did really enjoy IAN. But if I were to do a different route next time, I would probably just go to Precision Nutrition. I'll probably even do Precision Nutrition later on in the future years just to get more of their certificates, because I like their stuff and I like their content, and the coaches and resources that they put out is just amazing. But both of them were both very excellent schools. So the school that I went to I did the year-long route, and it was super flexible. I would just watch videos, an hour or two worth of videos, answer questions. And each week a new module would open up, and each week a new module would open up. And it was super flexible for me and super doable for me in my season of my son going through chemo. It gave me something to do, something to learn about, and something to get excited about. And while I was going through IAN and learning within the first few modules that my son's risk of cancer could have been reduced if maybe I was just a little bit more intentional about my health before I was pregnant, and the generations before me also took care of her health properly. And I know that that's not the cure-all, solve-all thing. Cancer can still happen, okay? I'm not saying that I could have completely prevented it if I just changed my diet. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying it could have been reduced, or at least I could have given myself and my son a better foundation of health if I learned about nutrition a little bit better, and health and lifestyle and everything, all the other external things that affect our well-being. Anyways, I was blown away by it. I love the teachers. I love the content that I was learning. And basically, I fell in love with health and wellness and stuff like that. And I learned about behavioral change, active listening, and how to be a coach. So that was part of the health coaching, the coaching part. You can learn all about health and nutrition, but the coaching part is where that really counts, is when you're listening to a client and just kind of listening to what they're not saying, or even just being a listening ear to them, and then asking questions in such a way that helps them see the situation and see the solution to their situation for themselves, instead of directly saying, well, you just need to do this and that would be better. Well, because we all know what we need to do to be healthy. It's just implementing the practices to be healthy and staying disciplined to that. And that's where the coaching part comes in, where I help make those changes sustainable and help enable and empower moms and women to become their own solution seeker. So the timeline of this was, because my son was born in December of 2020, I think it was February or March of 2021 that I started my certificate. And then March, I think it was March. April of 2021, we were able to go home. And then my husband got a new job in a new city. So we moved in June, end of May, June, to a new city. It was closer to the hospital. And then during that time, I just, spent my time at home, enjoying and learning how to be a mom, and spending time with my son. My husband was working and I was staying home, and outside of nap times and motherhood time, I was putting my head down and getting my certificate and learning and doing my modules and everything, all like that. And then started seeing some friends as my very first clients, and I was seeing them for free. Later on, I'll do a more in-depth business episode on like how and what not to do when doing your own business. I think next time I wouldn't have seen clients for free as long as I did, because it was not good payoff for the time that I was putting into them. But we can go into that later. I did help them out a lot. I just, next time, I wouldn't have done it for free. But that's a long story why, and that's probably for a different episode. And during those times when my son was in remission, because they did 4 months of chemo, and then it's remission, where they're not considered cured from cancer. They're just kind of monitoring and making sure that the cancer doesn't come back before they officially announce them cured. So during this remission period, he had to go back to Seattle every 3 months for a scan and make sure things looked good. First year that we did that, every 3 months, I would fly back to Seattle with my son by myself, and he would do his scans, and I'd stay in Seattle for a couple days and then come back home. And then after the year, then it would be every 6 months for a couple years, and then after every 6 months, then it'll be a year, and then another year. And it's supposed to be at his 5-year end of therapy. If the cancer is still clear and stuff, then I think they don't have to do scans anymore. I think they just have to do blood work, or they can actually call him cured, depending on how things go and results and stuff. So that was cancer plan. Then 2022, I graduated from IIN, got my certificate, and officially called myself a business owner. I was kind of calling myself a business owner in the middle of, kind of at the end of 2021, but still learning how to navigate and set up my business. And it wasn't until 2023, the fall of 2023, when I finally settled on the name Holistify Wellness. Combines the words holistic and simplify, because I do enjoy, and I do think that we ought to take a holistic approach to health, which means big picture. It means not just food, it means lifestyle, it means habits, it means exercise, more than just food and supplements. It's everything to your well-being, how you're feeling, your mental health, your emotional health, your faith. Those all play in your physical well-being. And so that's the holistic part. And then there's the simplify, which means, simplify. You can go so far learning on the internet, learning about holistic health, that it's easy to get caught up in new information and then hear about these fad things and wondering, like, is this legit? And then you're taking part in these weird health rituals that you believe are going to make you healthier and better, but really they're just overhyping a small factor or variable that plays to your health. It's not the end-all cure-all. I don't know if that makes sense. But there's a lot of information out there that makes a lot of moms overwhelmed, and it made me overwhelmed when I was first navigating things too, because I was like, I don't know what's right. Do calories count, or do calories not matter at all? Is processed food really that big of a deal, or should we completely eliminate it because it's killing us inside? Gut health, supplements, probiotics, prebiotics. Yeah, there's just so many odd health things. And then there's this term biohacking, and we can go into why biohacking is a fad and why I don't partake in that and why I think it's a ridiculous thing. But those are just examples. And simplify means to take the overwhelm out of learning the information so that you can feel comfortable and confident making a healthy decision for you and your family's health. So that is kind of where my coaching business started and what inspired my journey and why I do what I do, because I really think God was at work when my son had cancer and all the doors opened up to where I quit my job and now I do health coaching, and now I'm making a positive impact on other moms' lives directly, and in turn helping their families be healthy. And I do feel like that this is where I'm supposed to be, and that this is where I can not only, help moms improve their health, but also be a positive light and reflection of God and Jesus and their work in my life, because that is a big part of my journey, and it is like an indirect mission behind my business. It is built on faith and my beliefs and values, and like my business runs by my faith and my relationship with Jesus. And that's really the mission and story behind my business and how it was born. If you follow my Instagram account, you probably know of my journey. If you're new, welcome to my journey. But yeah, so the goal for Holistify now, because I am well integrated, I've got some good systems now in place. I am a confident business owner and I know how to run things now. I've got a great mentor and business coaches to learn from who inspire me every day. But the goal for Holistify is just to continue growing small like it is, because I work from home. I'm not like a corporate business owner or anything like that. I don't have plans for quick scale, fast growth. It's growing at a good rate right now, just kind of slow and steady at the capacity that I can handle as a stay-at-home mom. But the goal is for it to continue growing, become a recognized name in the health and wellness realm online, and continue to encourage and empower moms to make healthy decisions for them and their family without bringing fear-mongering and fad diets and conspiracy theories and overwhelm and adding stress to their lifestyle. That is the whole goal behind Holistify. Simplified, holistic living. Well, that kind of wraps up my first episode, my first introduction episode. I hope you guys were able to be inspired or encouraged by my story. You can find me on Instagram at holistify.wellness. Holistify is HOLISTIFY. Holistify.wellness. You can also get on my website, holistifywellness.com. I have a bunch of free resources there, and there's a selection of programs on how to work with me if you guys ever want to jump on board and work with me. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you guys so much.